Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sofia with an F. I am joined by kind of my new best friend.
Yeah. Honestly, this is dope. This is really dope. Specifically after we did a pod for mine and this is your intro, I really like it. Your intro is amazing.
What do you mean my intro?
Like your presentation voice. I didn't know that was going to come out right there.
Did my voice change?
Yeah, you had a much different inflection.
Really?
Yeah, it was impressive.
This is Bradley Martyn, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
He is very good looking, very in shape.
Wow.
I'm still trying to figure out if he's like a good guy, maybe a little shady. I don't know. We've had a few shots.
How would I be shady at all?
Actually, no. I can tell you are very, very kind. Genuinely, you are.
I appreciate it. Let's back it
So,
up.
Bradley, introduce yourself, which I hate when people tell me to do that shit, but I feel like you have a whole elevator pitch.
I really don't, man. I mean,
You do.
I don't. So guys, my name's Bradley Martyn. No, I don't have an elevator pitch. I really don't. Yeah, I film videos. I make podcasts. I've been doing it for a very long time.
You're a big deal.
I'm big. I'm big. I don't know about a big deal, but I'm probably a bigger guy.
Yeah. So you are dating someone right now.
Yes. Yeah.
What are the biggest qualities in a girl? For the majority of dudes, what do they look for?
Good dudes look for. Well, I personally, at the same time, I don't think I can speak for every guy, but I can say for sure that, like we were talking a little bit about on my pod, I think it's really important for someone that you involve in your life to be someone that has something that is important for them, like as a human, like something that beyond the physicality, beyond the looks, beyond all the stuff. At least at this point in my life, at 33 years old, when I was younger, I was a lot more superficial as far as what I looked for and why I even cared about being involved with women.
Okay, Bradley, I have to cut you off because you were singing a very different tune when I was just on your show.
What did I say differently?
You said, I need a girl that will make dinner every night.
No, we were talking about that off. Oh, yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
I need a girl that will, do the laundry, have a sandwich ready for me when I get home.
But we also said on that podcast that at the same time I was explaining this to you, I was also saying that someone having a purpose is the most important part. Right. So I said, yes, there are those things that I really do value in a relationship, because for me, things that I don't want to do so much so for myself because I'd rather focus on other things.
Right.
But at the same time, I still said, even on that pod, and like I'll say here now, is at this point in my life, I look for someone who has something that they're passionate about. And if that evolved into something where they didn't have the time to cook me a sandwich or to make dinner or to do these other things that I want to help with, then I'd be able to understand that. Because like I was talking about how love is like a learning and a growing experience. Yes. So I fully stand by that.
Which I do want to touch on. Yeah. But you don't care about the success or the financials when it comes to a girl.
Not at all. No. I think it's more about having something that they're passionate about, whether they're making a ton of money on it or making no money, or just having something that they can. Because, if you're in a relationship, I feel like that is all dominantly just one person looking to the other for all their source of motivation or their source of purpose.
Yeah.
Like if a girl's purpose is
big
just
issue.
me, it's a big issue. Or vice versa. If a guy's purpose is just his girl, there's a big issue. There's always going to be a power dynamic struggle that's not going to feel good.
Totally.
So there are certain things that I really value. Someone who would cook for me, someone who would take care of the house, because I don't enjoy it as much as maybe the next guy. But as long as she at the same time, like I said, if she was doing those things and if she had something else she was really passionate about, and then she grew out of maybe as much time as she had here to deal with these other things that I find important for myself, I would understand that at the same time, because I'm that kind of individual where I'm constantly trying to get more out of my life, and I'd want someone to understand my growth. Right. So it can be I don't know. I don't want to say both things in a sense, but it's a matter of understanding where someone's at in relationship to where I'm at and being able to be willing to grow with that person. But I say all that to say, I think those are the things I look at more now. And when I was younger, it was more just how hot was a girl? Straight up.
Well, you're kind of still in that zone.
Not really.
A little bit.
Which part you think?
I mean, men, I don't care what age, it always boils down to how hot the girl is. That's a main factor. Always.
I think though at some point, because at this fades entirely for both people, men or women, that it does really matter someone's heart. It does really matter what someone is like. Like, can you sit with someone and have a conversation with them about fucking nothing? Or can you sit in a room and have a conversation about nothing and it doesn't feel weird, or it doesn't feel like something should or shouldn't be said?
Right.
Can you have that sort of energy exchange that feels very like calm or you know, good without forcing something to be, or like a conversation? So there's a lot more things that I think matter, especially as you age, that you start to realize like didn't like always matter the most, but you weren't as aware of it. And then as you got older, you realize this is actually what really matters, because physicality, all this shit's going to fade and change. And it's like, if you lived off just of what someone looked like, then that's like almost like living in the sense of trying to make more and more money. It's just like this a never ending cycle of like, if you only like this person or love this person,
never satisfied.
Yeah. If you liked her because she looked like this, then eventually she doesn't look like this. And then you look at the other young girl who looks like this, and now you love her. And it's like, you're in this constant state of searching for more.
Right.
Just like if I was trying to find money, it's like, there's never enough to make.
Right. I love how you said young girl.
Yeah. Well, because if we're just basing off of like,
yeah, like that's what happens, right? You get married, and then the dude ends up wanting like a hot 20-something-year-old, right? Because the girl has aged.
Yeah, I think if he's not met himself at that place where it's like, what else really matters? Like if he's still living off of this is what matters, physicality, then of course in his mind he'll be like, if his reason, like for like, this is a funny thing I think is really interesting. Like, you know, there's a lot of young girls who date older guys, and then because they got money and because they have all this stuff or whatever. I don't know if that's you specifically, because I know that you're doing well for yourself, but a lot of young girls date older guys because like they're more established, or they feel like this person has things that can provide for them. And if that guy's only reason to date the younger girl wherever is like just because she's doesn't look as old as like another woman, then eventually it's like, if there's nothing else built around that, he's going for the next one, right?
Right.
The next one down, the next one down. So I think that's what I'm saying. It's so important for women beyond just like, you know, the physicality to try to develop within themselves. And goes vice versa for men. Like you can't just be a shell. Like you need to have something that is like valuable to you. Cause I think even the rich guy who's like just taking the girl, if he starts to see like, well, this girl really is passionate about this and she cares about that, then like he would be more likely to want to stay with that person than just to be like, oh, all I care about is this.
Okay, but we're not, as women, we're not like trying to change who we are so we can appease the dude who might want the 20-year-old 20 years later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that matters. I don't think you need to. I think it's not about that. I mean, it's not about appeasing anyone. I think that the thing that I'm hitting on is like, it's just a matter of people, men or women, having something that they really care about outside of just having a relationship or having like a person in your life. Like if you have something like, I fully believe if you're able to genuinely love yourself, you could actually genuinely love someone else. And I don't think people can genuinely love themselves if they don't have something that they genuinely love for themselves. Right?
Wow. Okay.
So if my love was based on I love you and I love you because you mean this to me, and I don't have anything external that allows me to like have this own self-love with who I am and what I do and what I'm working on or what I'm working towards, then my love is always based on external forces and not what's actually happening within me.
Right.
So then I can never truly genuinely love another person, and I can't truly genuinely be loved by another person because there's that discrepancy with myself.
So how do you genuinely love yourself? That's like a...
Yeah.
That's something I'm battling with.
I think we all battle with it. I battle with it. I'm definitely not figured this out, but I think it's being able and willing to confront yourself on all the levels that you know you really need to in order to actually grow as a human, so that you can love yourself, so that you can accept yourself for all your flaws and not be like down on yourself because these things happen to you, being able to accept what you've went through, being able to like try to look back and make the most out of it. And none of this is easy. All of this is extremely hard. And that's why I think a lot of people find themselves in these like, you know, same cycles in relationships because they're unwilling to like go at that thing in themselves. It's whether it's related to their ego, why they can't let go of something because it's related to some other shit in their past, or why they can't genuinely allow themselves to love. Like I've struggled really deeply with
commitment issues.
Yeah, in allowing myself
How
to.
did I just know?
Yeah, allowing myself to genuinely love because my fear of being taken away from me. Because like I told you in my pod about losing my father when I was young, when I was 6.
Yes.
So because my father took himself out of my life, like he killed himself. So I was like, my relationship to all the love in my life is that, you know, if I get too close to someone, I felt like they're going to take themselves away from me and hurt me. And it's going to hurt because it's already hurt. And I know what it feels like and I want to avoid that. So anytime I would get close to loving, I would like almost create issues that oftentimes we're not even there,
Right.
or exacerbate issues that were small and make them very large,
Right.
to be able to create distance so that I can be okay. When
Like a defense mechanism.
yeah. And in
right?
reality, I was ending up in the situation that I didn't want to end up in, which was losing that person. And then you just
Right.
lose that person.
Right.
So, yeah.
But it was something that you were in control of and knew would happen, right? So it felt safe almost.
Yeah, now I'm way more aware of it and more in control of it, but it's like I still tend to create circumstances like that because I don't know, it's like my fear of fully giving into something, fully allowing myself to
Yeah.
love. And like I said, ultimately this is, I cannot fully be in a loving, like symbiotic relationship with someone else if I can't fully get past those things in my life, because it's not going to allow me to. I know that.
Right.
Like I've tried, and you know, like I was talking to you on my pod about like the plant medicine and doing all this stuff and working on myself, and that stuff has really helped me get closer to what I need to get through in my life. But it's still work no matter what, and it still takes time no matter what to like
Of
really pick it
course.
apart, see yourself for who you really are, and continue to try to grow and you know, try to let down all those fucking defenses that we all set up.
Which, I mean, you'll be doing that your whole life, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
People think they'll like reach nirvana or like an aha moment. I know everything, but I don't
Yeah.
think that ever really happens.
No, that never happens. I think like it's all a learning process, all of
Yeah.
it. And it's supposed to be. I mean, that's what life is. And we were talking earlier too about that's what love really is love is really understanding where someone's at that time, understanding where you're at, and being able to like communicate in a way that allows you guys to continue to grow together. And then when love falls out, it's because, you know, someone's not willing to either like understand or hear or listen or get where someone else is. And it's hard because we can't also, this is really important, I think, for people to understand. We can't also be like, damn, you don't love me, blah, 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 whatever. But it's hard because people, it's to accept that someone else is just on a completely different perspective, which we all are, but also a different timeline in their life as far as what they've learned and what they know to that point is completely different than you and I and everyone independently, right? So we find ourselves in positions a lot of times where people get really demoralized in their situations or relationships not working out, but it's really tough to accept the fact that timing is so important, and someone's time is just completely different than someone else's time in relationship to their ability to learn about themselves and how they love or how they're supposed to love or how they need love, and being able, even willing to share that. Like if I was in love with you and I wasn't able to tell you all the things that I needed for to feel love for me with us, and then I have this like relationship with you that, oh, you don't understand me, you don't appreciate me. And it's like, well, what if I was never able to fully explain to you what I needed, because maybe I haven't fully come to that conclusion yet for myself.
And coming to that conclusion is fucking, how do you get there? How do you get to that self-actualization to that degree?
I mean,
you know?
fuck, I'm not a
Ayahuasca,
fucking professional. Yeah.
say it.
I did ayahuasca. I mean, I'm not obviously not a professional at this by any means, because I'm still trying to figure this out in my life to make it, you know, as smooth as I want it to be.
You sound pretty close.
I'm close, I think.
I think so.
But it really does come down to looking at yourself without all the filters that you place on it.
Yeah.
Like we place so many filters on ourselves about like how we should be or how we need people to show up in our lives, and we create all these like expectations based on our expectation of others.
Right.
And you know, you're let down in those situations, because if I was like, I want this from you, and I never explained this, but then I expected this, and that was my expectation, and then like you continue to not hit it, and then it's like I'm just getting like, oh, she's not doing this, but I've never fully was like, maybe I was like, my ego didn't allow me to have that conversation with you about the things that I really thought about, or then I'm not able to actually make that work. So I think it comes down to, as much as you can, being able to remove your ego in relationship to all these decisions that we make for ourselves. And it's hard. It's the hardest thing, because like we built up like all this shit around who we are, or how we want people to perceive us, or how we want to be loved, or what love is to us.
Well, and also all these filters, right? We're not even aware of.
Yeah.
That's a scary part.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're so right. Because the filter thing is,
how are you gonna deal with it if you
don't know that it's there?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the thing I think comes down to, like, really looking inwards and being introspective about yourself and your life and what you've been through and the traumas that you've been through and your childhood and your past relationships, and looking at all those moments and trying to figure out how you got there. Because a lot of times people get in relationships and it'll be like a repeat of the last one, just like a different version. And it's like, there's something there for you to learn Otherwise, it wouldn't just keep happening. And it's not just about the other person, because everyone goes, well, he hurt me or she hurt me, and that's why I'm here. It's like, no, like, yeah, that maybe did happen and you are hurt, but you got there somehow by your accord as well.
Yeah.
So,
I feel personally attacked.
Yeah, it's tough.
But not because I'm fully aware. It's me every time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is being able to accept that and then looking back on those moments and really trying to discern the information, say, okay, this is how I got here. This is why this happened. Like, this was my foot in this. These are the steps that I allowed to get there, and accepting it to be able to say, okay, this is where I'm at. Where do I want to go?
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. And it is hard, because it's accepting self, like flaws. It's accepting that I'm not good enough, or I'm not this or that. And then re-teaching yourself, okay, I am and I can be. Here's why, and let me move forward and try and make that happen.
But also being comfortable and okay with, you're not perfect. You have flaws.
Yeah, no one's perfect.
And that's okay, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try to fight that.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people fight that, and they also like to blame everyone else.
I don't blame.
Yeah.
I don't. Do you?
There was times in my life when I would be like, they did this to me. This happened for sure.
So, okay, so tell me this, because I'm the opposite. Anything that happens, I'm like, Sofia, how did you fuck up?
Yeah. What do you want me to tell you, though?
Well, like, what does that mean?
About you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a therapist or a behavioral psychologist.
He just grabbed a shot glass, by the way.
I will say that some tequila helps. No, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I think when I was in that space where I was like really self-deprecation, I'm like, this is because of me, which is important. I think, I don't know, maybe the reason why I was that way more so when I was younger, not that everyone else is the problem now, but I was really hurt. Like, if I'm thinking about in relationship to my father, I was really hurt that my father took his life, because I was like, oh, I'm not good enough. So I tend to have this like,
oh, you put it on yourself.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
So when that happened, what?
No. How do you know where this is going? Go ahead.
What? Do you not feel comfortable?
No, go ahead. We can talk about it.
Why? With the shot?
No, just.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't feel comfortable.
No, absolutely. I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you put the blame on yourself when that happened. To some degree.
Yeah, to some degree, for sure.
Okay. And how did your family, like your mom, like everyone around it, how did they act?
I mean, it wasn't, no one was blaming, I guess themselves. I think my mom had a little bit of a poor relationship with it, because she more so was like, I have to make sure my boys are okay, me and my brother. And then she obviously had her own, love relationship connection to it, losing that and like having to kind of like be strong in the whole situation.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else really like blamed themselves for it. And I didn't necessarily just say like, this is my fault. I guess it was more so like my ego, myself was like, oh, I'm not good enough for you to stay around, because, as I would go through life and then I would experience other shit like graduation, or like go into like, I would play football. So football, and you see other people, kids interact with their parents, and I'd be like, why don't I have that? It was more of a comparison that I didn't have these things that like other people had. Right.
Which I can kind of relate to, right? Yeah. To a certain degree, because my dad was not there.
Yeah.
And also you were so young when it happened, right?
Yeah, I was 6.
So that's hard to like, well, and also how is your mom really supposed to act in that situation? It's so hard.
Yeah.
To a 6-year-old,
Yeah. I mean, she did the best she could. There's no blame on her. I mean, looking back now at 33 years old, it's actually crazy when I look back and I'm like, damn, she lost the love of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had to tell her 2 boys that, your dad's not coming back.
Yeah.
And then trying to, make life as good as possible for them.
Right. Thank you for
tough.
sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make it about me after you just said that, but I feel like when you were talking about, you would see kids with their parents and,
Yeah.
The fact that my dad, and I've spoken about this, that he met me twice, right?
Yeah.
Once in middle school, once in high school, and then was like, I'm good. Don't want to talk to her. I'm sure that my self-worth and my self-esteem and like all of that shit was heavily affected by that. For sure.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And when we're young, like, I don't think, I mean, even younger than that, how much our brains and how much we develop like personality and personality traits, like, is so relevant to who we are for the rest of our lives.
I know.
And I think a lot of people know that, but don't really realize that how important it is to go back to those times, like, as wherever you are now, based on your life, wherever you are now, going back to those younger times and like addressing that part of your life from a newer perspective is so powerful. And I think a lot of people don't do that because it's uncomfortable to go back to, like, you know, talk to, in a sense, that younger self and be like, hey, how did you create these assumptions about yourself then? And how do they, like, are they even serving you now? Because 10 times out of 10, they're not.
I mean, I'm 30 and I just in the past year am like starting that journey, right?
Yeah.
Of like talking to my inner or my younger self.
Yeah.
Which you talk about that a lot.
Yeah. I've been dealing with that for a long time.
Can you explain that? Because I haven't fully like dived into that shit.
Yeah. Well, a good friend of mine who came on the pod, he's a mentor of mine. He had me write a letter to my younger self.
Okay.
And that changed my life. Like, it absolutely changed my life. Yeah. I wrote a letter to my 6-year-old self in relationship to what had happened. And it just allowed me to put thought, you know, pen to paper, like the thoughts that I have now as a 30-year-old, 33-year-old man in relationship to myself as a 6-year-old man, a 6-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
Rather, where I'm able to say, like, I know you felt this way, but here's your perspective now. And like, what happened to you then is not going to dictate your life now. You don't have to allow it. So I wrote all these things to myself, literally a letter to myself now, even because I'm not going back. I'm not opening the mailbox as a 6-year-old being like, oh shit, I'm reading this. I'm reading it as myself now, but it was to myself. And that really changed my perspective. What? That's a cool story. Thank you. No, thank you, man. That's Steve. No, it's real. I really did do that. And it changed my perspective on that thing entirely.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because when he told me to write that letter to myself, I was like, I remember thinking, like, what is that going to do?
How the fuck is this going to benefit me?
But I just started writing, and then like I'm like crying, like writing this shit.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just you don't. Fuck you.
No,
I don't think you realize.
Amazing.
I don't think you realize how much shit like you don't think of until you start like really putting it out.
Right. Until you're older and you're writing it on paper.
Yeah, and you have perspective. So like I've always talked about this too. My father took his life when he was, I think, 38 or 36 years old, and now I'm 33, and my perspective is completely entirely different on someone who did that, right? Like, I'll never say it's good you took your life, but as I aged and as I went through shit and as I dealt with people and losses and got fucked over and taken advantage of and hurt, I started to realize, like, not why someone would take their life, but like how he could get there based on his life and his circumstances. Because you never have that perspective as a 6-year-old. You're not like, this guy just left me and now I got to figure out my life. And that's your only perspective. But looking back now, I'm like, damn, the amount of shit I've gone through now, I'm not saying it makes sense, but it paints a much different picture for me to see it now.
You understand it more.
Yeah,
understand him.
Yeah, exactly. Like where he could have been and what he might have been doing. And based on the stories and things that I learned about him after the fact, obviously in my older age, and then relationship to the things that I've been through in my older age, I'm able to say, wow, not that this was okay, but I can understand how someone can get there more.
Absolutely.
So it's all about just being able to go back and pull those things and like look at them through like a real honest lens with yourself now. And that's really hard for a lot of people to do because it's fucking uncomfortable.
See, I feel very comfortable and I'm very self-aware, and I don't know how to even get there, like get that deep, right? And like, how did you?
That's interesting. I fuck.
Because I'm not the type of girl that's like in denial, delusional. Like, that's not. I'm very, very honest with myself, but I can't go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Number one, I think I'm a really weird person. And then number two, like the gym, fuck.
No,
think,
see, you're like saying, I already know what you're thinking in your head.
Yeah, so
me saying the gym sounds stupid. It doesn't. It doesn't.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gym for me was a thing that, if I explain this to you, you ask like, how did I get there? Mm-hmm. When I did the gym, like, oh man, fuck. Fuck the. So, fuck.
I want to start crying now.
Yeah, me too.
What?
Fuck you, Steve.
Steve, when did you show up? And why are you here, by the way?
Hold on, that helped. Thank you. That helped.
No, so, why is he here?
Yeah, because we're gonna go work out. But listen, I wanted to say this. Yeah, I really want to say this. The reason why I'm talking about the gym was that I think I spent so much time thinking about what happened to me, and in the relationship to my father in the gym was I was so angry. I was so fucking mad.
Oh, you were angry.
So fucking mad. And because this is when I got older. I was so
pissed. So probably when you were younger, it was more sadness, and you felt hurt. And then as you got older, it was anger. Yeah,
a lot of anger. And so the gym, I think the reason why I'm at this point now where I'm able to look back more clearly and like you said, like how can you get there, is because I spent so many years thinking about it. Like where it's just like every time I worked out, I was so mad.
You were thinking about it.
Yeah.
Every time you worked out.
Every time.
Wow.
And that's, I think, why. The only reason why is because like, and even before in the sadness when I was younger, I would constantly question like, why me? I remember repeating this to myself like all the time. Like, how come I deserve this? Like, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to find myself in a situation? Like, I was very upset with the idea that it happened to me.
Right.
And then
so when you felt like you were set up, like you were wronged.
Yeah,
in life.
In a sense. And so then this is the really important part for everyone listening. It took me about 26 years, right? Well, 20 years, I guess would have been because I was 6 and then 20. So as soon as I was 26, all this shit that I dealt with that like built me up to this point in my life where I'm doing fitness shit, I'm filming fitness videos, I'm like getting all this, like everyone's like, oh, we like the shit you're doing on the internet. And I started meeting people and I would talk about this kind of stuff in my videos, like bits and pieces and workout videos, and I would share about my life. And then people would come up to me and say like, yo, when you talked about your dad, this meant a lot to me and you gave me this. Then I started to realize like, wait, all this shit finally makes sense. So it took me 20 years for this like loss to feel really good. But
why? Because people were relating to it?
Yeah, people
or
were saying, yo,
them?
I really appreciate when you talked about your dad. Or I mean, I've literally have conversations with guys who like didn't kill themselves, who were in the process of killing themselves, who are friends to me to this day. Shout out Martyn. He's in Austin, a friend of mine. And people, there's a lot of people who have like sent me messages and it said, yo, when you talked about this, you helped me with my situation in my life. Or I thought about suicide. Then I was like, yo, if he can go through this, I can go through that. All those kind of messages for years. For I would say like 25 to 26, it started happening because I became more comfortable with sharing my story. Yeah. And so around 26, I was like, oh, this finally makes sense. So it took me 20 years for that hurt, that pain to be like, this is a positive. And I think it's just important for people to hear that because a lot of people might be in a moment in their life where this is so down and they feel like there's no up, but there is. It's just a matter of continuing and just keep going through the bullshit. Because like I spent years just like in this negative mindset that eventually turned into something completely different.
Well, and also people feel like they need to heal from trauma like immediately.
Yeah, it's
right?
not real.
If you haven't healed within a year, there's something wrong, right? Like there's like a time limit pressure that we put on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, you said 20 years.
Yeah. And and we were talking even earlier, not just the trauma stuff, but like even love, all this stuff is not, there's no time on any of it. Like how you're supposed to figure out, how you're supposed to know, like what you need. We're all just fucking humans trying to figure this shit out.
Right.
And I think we need to be easier on ourselves sometimes.
Right. I just find it so amazing that you reached a point of self-actualization. And I'm doing air quotes, by the way, because maybe you're not fully there, right?
Nah, I think we're always kind of
We're always.
Yeah.
working towards that, but you got to that point just after years of working towards it and opening up yourself to people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Is that how you would sum it up?
For sure. Talking to people, learning about people, trying to understand people, because I was trying to understand myself. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, why and how. And, like, the more you communicate, the more you understand. Like I was telling you on my pod, like, the more you ask questions to people, the more you can, like, answer questions within yourself.
Right.
And so I've just always been, like, so deeply interested in that, which is why, like, I love this sort of content in general, because I'm just like, I love having conversations about things that actually matter.
Me too.